This is session 1407, session number 45 with TVP on 8/23/85.
We are here and ready to begin.
Welcome. We're delighted to have you join us today. If it's possible, I would like to speak with the Gandhi component of the group to follow up on some of the things that happened last time.
Yes, give us a moment. We have a few things that we will be discussing today as well. If you will give us a moment, we will see that you speak with the energy that you wish to speak with.
Thanks very much.
You may proceed.
Very good, thank you. After speaking with your student, Clyde, last time, we find ourselves having a lot of questions about the teaching that you're doing now. And we're wondering if you could tell us something about the students that you have and how they're chosen.
Yes, we will be discussing later on during these next few sessions the need for paradigm shifts which are taking place on your planet. Much of the teaching that is going on today at this level has to do with the selection of those higher energies which will in most part be returning to the planet to aid in the paradigm shifts. Clyde was one of those. Much of what is going on is not a teaching as you understand it. It is a moving of energy which helps the entity expand their own awareness. And I am in that role as a facilitator, although I consider myself a master teacher. It is not in the way of sitting down and lecturing, even though I have described the setting as being a classroom with students in it. It is all on a nonverbal level of communication, a thought transference, and more of an opening up of awareness.
That's interesting. So that would your teaching methods though would involve your meeting with your students as a group.
You could put it that way. I do not necessarily have to meet with them in order to give them the information, just as there are many enlightened souls on your planet that do not have to meet face to face in personal contact to pass along the information that is necessary. The same is true on this plane. It is a more that we are on the same vibrational level and I can pass the information to them. There are times when we are together, but it is still not the concept that you are thinking of when you visualize a classroom with me before a podium. That is not quite the way that it works.
Mm-hmm. Assuming that there would be a large number of entities that would meet your criteria for inclusion, how would you choose those that you wanted to work with?
It is a matter of, as I said before, vibrational level, and there are many on this plane besides myself who are doing the teaching, as we are calling it. So it is not like everyone runs to be with me. In fact, those that I teach are those that I have been tied together in many lifetimes on the planet before or on other planes, and so it is a natural bonding. The same is true with the Buddha images that are here, the Krishna images that are here. It is still the same. There is a particular bonding, and the energies are drawn together.
Would all of the students you're working with have spent some time in the physical plane?
Most of them have. There are 3 that have not, but most of them have spent time on the physical plane and in one relationship or another with me in one lifetime or another. Mm-hmm. For this reason, it is the same as with you and the people around you at this point in time, that if you were on this plane, you would be drawn together, not for reasons that you can readily understand. It is like the magnetic field that is sometimes talked about. It is a polarity of drawing together, and it is not unlike the dance of molecules just before the boiling point. Molecules know to come together to form a certain pattern just before water boils. This is no different than how the energies know to come together just before they move on to another plane or before they choose to reincarnate.
Mm-hmm. Will you be preparing them for specific roles on the earth?
They will choose, along with their own guardians, those roles which they will come back to earth and carry out. What I am doing is more of showing them the ways to the truth, so that when they are in whatever role they choose, they will be enlightened souls and able to carry on the teachings. It is not like I am specifically teaching someone to be a nonviolent leader. Rather, I am teaching these energies on how to live in the world and how to bring truth, which is so important, to the planet.
Will they be entering the physical plane as what we think of as New Age children?
Yes, they will. They will be entering. There are some that I'm working with now that will be back on your plane within the next 15 years. There are others that it will be more likely the year 2040 or so before they are back. They will all be coming back to make the adjustments for what the planet will be going through and to bring enlightenment to the planet.
It's very interesting to us. At one time in talking with you, I got the feeling that you weren't too anxious to talk about your last life on the earth, but I was wondering if it was possible for me to ask a few questions about that.
You certainly may. It is not a matter of not anxious. It is a matter of that it takes us back to living in the past and forgetting what is the Tao, which is the most important thing that one can attend to. And in so, looking back to my past life, there are those individuals on the planet who may overlook the new leaders of today, the new dimensions that are taking place. They do not realize that there are those that are around them that are every bit as enlightened as you like to believe that I was when I was there.
Yes, I wondered whether there's the fact that a good many individuals still think a good deal about your messages and your teachings here on Earth, and use you as a model. I wondered if that, to some extent, locks your energy into the Earth plane.
There certainly are theories that that is so, but no, my energy is all at this point right now. There are those who were my followers who can dwell on my concept perhaps a bit too much and pull me back to the earth's plane for brief periods of time. This is passing, as when I am brought back, I talk to them and tell them that it is not in their best interest to do this, but rather they must use their own inner guidance and who they are in order to grow and to be all that they can become. But I am not bound to the earth's plane, if that is the feeling that you are getting.
Yes, I was wondering if some of your energy was trapped here because of that. And that's good to know that it's not.
No, those concepts that that you are speaking of, the concept, the mind thoughts of trapping, it is true that there are some lower level entities that do get trapped in the earth's plane, and that thought forms can hold them there. But mainly it is a thought form of myself that people are tapping into, and not the original energy form that is myself. And the thought forms that these people tap into when they are considering me can be actually dissolved, just as you dissolve demons and entities that you don't want, but they cannot dissolve me and what I am. It is just a thought form that is around.
Yes, I understand that distinction. That's important for us to hear. Um, Looking at that life from your present perspective, what do you feel your main teachings were?
Actually, my main teachings were far more centered toward oneness and toward peace, and not so much against others, or even in promoting nonviolent ways. That was not so much the center of what I was trying to bring forth and to spell out for the individuals there. The thing is, I see more from this level what it was I was teaching, because it was at an unconscious level that much of what I was bringing forth was was taking place. Much of what I brought forth was on an energy vibrational level, a calm centeredness level, and had nothing to do with words. There were many things that I was known for that could just as well be left alone. For example, my desire to work with spinning materials. This is more of a centeredness, a way of meditating that Westerners could use as an example rather than the actual act itself. It was that when we are doing such tasks, we are able to focus our minds in other areas. I do not believe that I should be known for an overwhelming defeat of the British by my peaceful ways, or for marching to the ocean to take up salt. These were things that I did, but they were not the overwhelming concept of centeredness and oneness that I really would like to have promoted.
Yes, I see. Other teachings that I thought might have been involved were a determination to see that right was done, but doing that without attack.
This is what I consider when I was speaking of the relationship with the British. It is a centeredness, and oneness does not judge what is right and what is wrong. And from this viewpoint, I see things a bit differently. I certainly in that lifetime had a very strong sense of justice. In this particular plane that I'm on, justice as defined on your planet is not something that we spend a lot of time using our energies over, because things just are. I would not say that I was a strong promoter of the right. There were certainly things in my own life that took place. If I reflect back on them, I would say I would need to change perhaps the treatment of my wife, treatment of my children. This certainly was not from an earth perspective, I would say, not seeing that right was done.
Right. Um, could I ask about the fasting that you did as a way of bringing about change? Does this now seem to you a productive method?
It is not productive when it starts to destroy the body. The care and attention to the body is the most important thing that humans there can do, because, as you know, it's the only body that you have, and you are there incarnate to show and to be the glory of God. And therefore, when you're fasting and when your body starts to eat away at itself, then you are not necessarily creating good. To fast to get others' attention, I do not feel at this point in time is also a good way. I feel that because of the power of the mind and thought forms, you can do other things by merely being without fasting that would be just as effective.
I also wanted to ask whether you chose assassination as your way of leaving the physical plane, or whether that you were simply ready to go and that means appeared.
It was more ready to go. It was more a contract that was made at that point with the soul of the assassin. I knew that I would be dying in a violent way. When one chooses a path of nonviolence, the irony and paradox is, of course, that they are going to leave the plane in a violent way, but perhaps this was a most important message that I could have given to the people of the planet. Had I just died a weary old man, not as much notice would have been made of my death or the message that I was trying to get across. You have seen the same in some of your wise men, such as King and Kennedy. You have seen the same type. They chose, rather the choosing was made prior to the incarnation. They knew that along with a life and what was going to take place, that they would be leaving it in a way a little bit differently from just dying in an old home.
Were you conscious of some of these factors when you were in physical body?
Yes, I was. I knew I had seen my death. I had had my own teachers appear to me just prior to the time that I died, and they told me that I would be taking a journey where I would be in contact with them. I knew very well when it was going to take place, and almost up to the moment prior to the occurrence.
Had this kind of information been available throughout your life?
Yes, yes, much of this information was always available to me. I had several spiritual teachers that would appear to me, actually in spirit form, as you would say, in my room, not necessarily when I was in a meditative state. Often when I would just be alone or with others, I would see them appear and they would give me the message which I needed to hear. They were always with me.
Were those around you aware of these kinds of activities with you?
Some of my followers were. In fact, some of them were so closely aligned with my own feelings and thoughts that they would at times see the wise person that I was speaking with. Others were not so aware or wished to tune it out. Others focused on me too much to see there was more there than just me.
That's very interesting to us, and we very much appreciate your sharing that information with us. Earlier, I was asking about your students and whether or not they had been in physical form and whether they would return and so on. And I'm wondering how big an issue is this, being in physical form or not being in physical form in the universe generally?
It is an interesting concept, how big an issue. I would say that it is an issue because, as the cluster has spoken before, it is a very important way to learn and to feel and to sense. And through the physical form, you're able to touch things a little bit differently than without the physical form. The seeing is not as important, for you see without the eyes and the physical senses. But when you are wishing to touch or to make contact with another energy, it is a nice way to do so. It also gives you problems to work through just by the mere fact you're working with other energies in physical form and do not quite have the freedom that you have on this plane. But you, as the co-creator, set it up so that you would be in physical form, and this is the way that it has been, and therefore the design is obviously perfect.
It's hard for us to remember that always. Once entities, though, are at your level, is there any difference in terms of whether or not they have experienced a physical existence?
The difference comes in very small ways of knowing and acknowledging, and in ways that if the energies at this level are going to work with energies on your plane, it is usually best that they have the actual experience of having been there. Often when energies are working with humans and they have not been on the physical plane, there can be some major items that they overlook because even on this plane we have not reached the ultimate knowing yet, and so we tend to forget that there are some things lacking in our knowledge of awareness.
Another question I wanted to ask was whether it's appropriate for us to think of all of those, us now in physical form, having come from different sources or different planes of reality, different levels, or whether whether we should think of ourselves as all coming from the same source.
We will be talking about the same source later on in these sessions. It is time that we begin to talk about paradigms and what is taking place on the planet and what needs to be done. So, of course, ultimately, it is all the same source. However, there are various levels of that source. There are various other realities. So everyone on Earth is not at the same level of spiritual development or of knowledge. This is important. It makes the planet a more interesting place to be on, and it makes the humans on the planet work a little bit harder for understanding. This is an important lesson that needs to take place on the planet today.
Is it appropriate to think in terms of there being some level at which entities would never choose again to come into the physical?
Yes, there reaches a point where the soul can only continue to grow toward perfection outside of the earth's plane. And of course, there is a level where they would not come back to reincarnate and be on the earth's plane. If humans could realize the feelings that souls have, the trauma and fear that they have before they reincarnate, they would not be as afraid of death, which has taken them back to this plane. It is, again, a paradox, but also much of what humans are worried about are things that they have forgotten and are just not comfortable with.
I'm not sure if I understood you there. Were you saying that there is souls might have trepidation about coming into the physical plane?
Yes, always just before, no matter how much they want to and no matter what contracts have been made with other souls out here, just before they are going to come back to the earth's plane, there is much fear, more so than what you see when a person is getting ready to die. When a person is getting ready to die, there is a calm peace and contentment that comes around them. But with souls coming back to the earth's plane, there is also the fear of having to go through the whole process again, and perhaps what they are wanting to accomplish they can see so clearly before they come in, and they would like to leave out some of the problems that they will encounter during their incarnation and go right to the meat of the issue, as you would say.
Are there some that are in such fear that they make the decision not to come?
No, once they are coming, it is a given. They will come because they need to, and most do need to, and most do come.
Is there some help for those who are in fear?
Oh, yes, there is always much help, many guardians around, and as the soul comes in, and once the soul is born and the child is there, the child clearly sees the guardians that are there to help him or her along, so they're there constantly. It is much like going down a long, dark chute that you cannot quite see the end and a dropping off point.
That tunnel that we try to go through and coming to other levels of reality is just reversed.
This is correct.
Robert Monroe believes that a major factor in souls recycling through physical form is our addiction to the emotions. Could you speak to that?
I am familiar with his theory and his addiction to emotions. I do not see it as being the way that he conceives it, because the emotions are there around the earth that souls can drop into. The emotions, as we have discussed before, that are most important is the concept of love, the feeling of love, and that is here much more and much stronger than the emotions that you're going to feel on the physical plane. The sexual content would be more likely to be what a soul might become addicted to, but automatically the soul is going to be moving through the various chakras of the body, and after having experienced, saying, a strong lifetime of sexual prowess, the soul will automatically be moving on up and channeling that energy into a greater awareness. The concept of a soul being addicted or striving to return just for the emotions is not one that is consistent with this soul cluster's way of thinking.
Oh, very good. Thank you. I have a good many other questions prepared, but because I know that we are going to have a number of sessions now available to us in a fairly short period. But I wonder if it would be good now to save some of those and hear more of the things you wish to tell us.
That would be fine. We may save them and we will proceed with just some of the things that we feel is important to be coming through at this point in time. As you are aware, many of the fields of science on the Earth's plane are all beginning to explore the New Age concepts, the concepts of paradigms of what is taking place, of soul, of life, death, and what have you. The time has come now for the scientists to begin to merge their research, to merge their concepts into a oneness. This oneness is more than what has been known as a holistic concept, because this particular oneness takes into account that area of knowledge that is outside of the traditional way of thinking. We wish to bring to the forefront the thought that the body is within the soul and not in the reverse order. We will be wishing to bring to the front the concept of the need for looking back at the what was called on your planet the Big Bang Theory, the concept of how the Earth was created and for what reasons, and to look and to establish that there is, without a doubt, a way of thinking, of thought form and thought travel that is universal and should be used. The needed objective at this point in time is to bring those individuals who are, as you would call, New Age thinkers out of their closets and into the forefront, because there are at this point in time too many groups, too many special interest groups, not necessarily on the right track, who are wreaking havoc and destruction on the Earth's planet. And these negative energies can have an adverse effect to all that the groups like you are trying to do. So what we would like to do would be to find a way to bring forth the information about this concept of universal knowledge and enlightenment, and to take away the old paradigms, specifically paradigms that have been founded in the field of psychology, which originally was for learning of the soul and study of the soul, and certainly not whatever it has gotten into today, but to look at the field of psychology, anthropology, as well as physics, and to merge these sciences so that one universal order and one universal science comes forth. We will pause now. Do you have questions?
Well, I think it's fascinating that you've been working with me this week, I guess, to develop my questions, because one whole page of my questions have to do with the Big Bang Theory and things that follow from that, and the concept of the universal mind and universal memory. So,
what a coincidence.
What a coincidence. You've been here before today. Huh?
Yes, yes. Would you like to proceed with questions? Would you like for us to proceed?
Well, I guess I would like to have you proceed, and then I will try to fit my questions in wherever they're appropriate.
Very well. Let us begin with the concept of the Big Bang Theory. This is a theory that we have discussed at one point before, as we talked about how souls and everything spun off at the same rate, casting out and going out to become you and all of the entities around you. The point of the Big Bang Theory, and actually there must be other terms for that are better, that could be broken out and more easily defined. The whole point of the Big Bang Theory is that light reaches the Earth at the same intensity everywhere. There is much in science that would show that indeed the start of this particular galaxy and planet and civilization all began at once. If you were to go to your mathematicians and work through numerical forms, you would find that the numerical forms all resolve out to the same numerical numbers. There is much on the planet that can be pulled together and can show that the energy, the God force, as you are accustomed to calling the universal force, did in fact create everything with one large explosion, one large ball of fire, one large star explosion, so to speak. And your consciousness rose out of that explosion, just did the technology and the equipment that you are working with. And that your consciousness, which you are using now, is the same consciousness that was alert and awake and alive back at the very beginning. And there is light that you are using now that comes from the 20 million so years ago when everything was created.
May I ask a clarifying question there?
Yes.
we, and usually in thinking about the Big Bang Theory, are thinking about the creation of the physical universe, but you're saying that much more comes along with that.
This is correct. We're saying that with the Big Bang Theory, that is how the God force worked also to spread out the consciousness so that it could take place and move on down into what you are today. The God force consciousness was always there, but in creating the various souls and aspects of the God force, that particular consciousness came about at the same time of the Big Bang Theory.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a lot for us to think about here, and I'm trying to recognize the implications of
You
that.
may leave it and come back to with a question at a later point in time if you wish.
Um, all right. My questions that I had prepared were mostly around the concepts of the physical universe creation.
This is
Uh,
fine. You may proceed.
um, the theory is usually opposed by a theory which says that there is continuous creation of matter in the universe, and that the physical bodies of the universe, the suns and stars, and the stars and planets and moons, are continuously forming and disintegrating, so to speak. Um, this um, you would then disagree with this latter concept?
This is so
Mm-hmm.
because as and there are scientists working on this today, this is not so surprising. There is a constant changing of that which is of the present matter, as we once gave the example of a tree in the forest, but that does not mean that it is being made out of nothing and taking place. And there are many scientists working with the quantum mechanics who are seeing that everything happened at one time and it's just a transformation, but not a total new recreation.
Yes. Another of the implication of Big Bang Theory, as I have understood it, is that matter was set into motion at the explosion, and that it continually moves apart. And we have a phenomena called, to the astronomers, the red shift, that is an indicator to them that the universe, parts of the universe, are continually accelerating away from each other. Is this part of what you understand also?
No, if you will go back and if the astronomers would get their concept in line with some of the physicists, they would see that it is a problem of perception and it is not what is actually taking place. There is a very evenness and centeredness to the entire universe. The concept of everything on schedule would apply to the universe in that there is no disparity between the total picture and what is actually going on. They are only seeing one small part. They are not looking at the total picture.
Then it's not so that the we are continually accelerated away from other physical bodies in the universe.
This is correct. It is as it was at the beginning. It is a constant, and it is their own misconceptions and beliefs that have put them where they are. It is not like the belief that Columbus had to overcome when he was striving to sail around a world that was flat. The same is true with what is taking place with many astronomers today.
Well, it would seem then that, as you suggested earlier, that the Big Bang Theory is not a very good name for it, because that suggests the explosion that does send things into the motion, so that a better term would be something else.
This is correct. We cannot give you a term at this point that we feel would be better. Possibly we will come through with a term we feel better that will be more appropriate. It it was more like a fireball that spread out. That is our concept.
Um, is it appropriate then to think in terms of just before the event, that all light was contained in that one fireball or whatever, and that is now what is spreading.
This is correct.
As well as all life forms that now inhabit at least our part of the universe.
This is correct. But the universe is still so very unknown. We are giving you but one small penny out of a $20 bill to describe all that is going place. The universe is constantly changing, and we are constantly learning many, many things about the universe. Even on this plane, when we take to look at it, it is not primarily our source of information because we are looking at ultimate truth, but we do feel that we need to bring the message that science needs to pull back and look again at exactly what has taken place, and actually science is doing that. At some point we will ask you to present your questions to us about time, because we will be touching on an area of time and how it functions that also will be fitting in with those in physics. But we will not move to that particular question at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make you aware that we will ask you to bring the information in question form back to us.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll think about that. So that I'm still struggling with this concept, as you can see, the notion that the what we might call the God force or the source or whatever, universal mind, whatever language we would use for that, made a decision to have these events occur.
Yes.
And is that with an overall purpose that we could understand?
There have been many purposes given as to why the God force would do such a thing. Perhaps the best answer to that is so that it can reflect back upon itself. This is not a concept that is easily understood, but without the planet Earth and all that is in it, and without the entities, the God force is not able to reflect back upon itself, and this, even to a God force, is important.
Yes, that's fascinating. We think of the development of human beings as ones of increasing consciousness, or increasingly aware of self-aware and aware of their world. Is this at odds at all with what you've said?
No, it is not. It is more humans are more and more on the path to just awakening to what they already knew. And as you are aware, there is only a small part of each individual's total consciousness there in the body. So there is much more outside the body that is totally conscious and aware and not having to awaken to that which it knows.
Yes, very good. I think we would like to draw this session to a close now and take a little break and be back with you in an hour or so.
This is fine. Give us a moment, please.
Thank you.
I'm here.
Welcome back. I'm going to ask you to begin bringing yourself back to ordinary waking consciousness, knowing that when you return, you will be feeling full of energy and wide awake and alert, all your senses working brightly and beautifully, and feeling physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in a state of balance and harmony. I'll ask you to count back with me now, and I'll give you a little grounding signal. 10,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
move your arms and legs a little.
3, 2, 1.
And 1. And we will begin for you.
Okay.